Alright, fight fans, welcome back to the biggest show on earth. After a week off, the UFC has returned and we are live from Paris, France. Tonight's main event was absolutely massive. Nassourdine Imavov taking on Caio Borralho. In the co-main event, we saw Benoit Saint-Denis against Mauricio Rufy. And we also had Paul Craig, Brad Tavares, Marcin Tybura, and so many more. What went down? Let's take a quick look at all the action. Let's go. Shanna Dobson versus Sam Hughes. Shanna Dobson entered the UFC 2 years ago undefeated, but she lost that perfect record in her debut. However, she quickly bounced back, stringing together 2 wins in a row. This past March, this Taekwondo stylist by trade picked up a submission victory, earning herself a bonus from the promotion. Her opponent, Sam Hughes, a tough, gritty veteran grinder with a 5-5 record in the organization. But she's already taken the O from several young prospects. Let's see if Shanna Dobson could get past her. In the first round, Sam Hughes quickly took Shanna down to the canvas and absolutely dominated her on the ground, even getting to the crucifix position. It was a completely one-sided 5 minutes. It looked like the fight was already decided. And yes, in the second round, it wasn't just a feeling, it became glaringly obvious. Hughes once again took her opponent down, but if she tried to pound her out in the first, in the second, she went for the choke, and she got it. Sam Hughes chokes out Shanna Dobson in the second round and picks up the victory. Andreas Gustafsson versus Rinat Fakhretdinov. Andreas Gustafsson hasn't seen a loss in 2.5 years, riding a 4-fight winning streak with 3 finishes. Last summer, he successfully made it through the Contender Series and already secured a win in his UFC debut. Tonight, he was tested by Rinat Fakhretdinov, the first Tatar in the UFC who remains undefeated in the biggest promotion in the world. Both fighters are excellent grapplers, strong in the clinch, and physically powerful, so we were in for an intriguing matchup. The fighters immediately started trading blows. The Swede initiated the exchange, but Rinat accepted the challenge without hesitation. Initially, strikes landed on each other's guard, but it only took Rinat a matter of seconds to adapt to the chaos and start landing precise, impactful shots. Eating one punch after another, Gustafsson went into a shell and the referee stepped in. Just 52 seconds was all it took. Rinat Fakhretdinov picks up a lightning-fast TKO victory. Congratulations to him, that was a spectacular performance, Rinat. Brad Tavares versus Robert Bradchek. Things haven't been going Brad Tavares' way recently. He's lost 4 of his last 6 fights, but this past April, he managed to defeat Gerald Meerschaert, saving his spot on the roster. Robert Bradchek arrived in the promotion a year ago as an explosive finisher from the European promotion Octagon with a 4-fight first-round knockout streak. However, he lost his debut by decision to Igor Patera and hadn't been back in the Octagon since. Round 1, Robert Bradchek immediately started landing heavy shots. Tavares absorbed them but couldn't answer back, and midway through the round it all culminated in a knockdown. Bradchek had multiple opportunities to finish the fight early, but he couldn't capitalize on any of them. Round 2, Bradchek continued to press, but Tavares worked incredibly well off the back foot and looked much better. It seemed like things could turn around. But in the third round, it was a whole new ball game. Bradchek ramped up the pressure, forcing Tavares into a defensive shell with a barrage of strikes, and this time that storm of punches was too much to withstand, and the referee stepped in. TKO victory for Bradchek in the third round. Sam Patterson versus Trey Waters. Sam Patterson suffered a brutal knockout in his UFC debut against Ian Gary, but he managed to revitalize his career by moving up from lightweight to welterweight. There, he strung together 3 consecutive wins, all in the first round. Trey Waters, his opponent, a former LFA champion, tried to get into the promotion back in 2022 via the Contender Series, but lost to Gabriel Bonfim. A little later, he was signed directly, and in 2 years, he has 2 wins. Tonight was a chance to extend that streak. Sam Patterson immediately started out striking his opponent on the feet. He was landing, his opponent wasn't. It was that simple. Ultimately, midway through the round, Waters started eating every shot. He was rocked, hands dropped, stumbling, and continued to take punishment until the referee wisely stepped in. Sam Patterson wins by knockout midway through the first round. Harry Hardwick versus Caio Fernandez. Harry Hardwick is the Cage Warriors featherweight champion with 2 successful title defenses. In the premier English promotion, this kid had a 7-0 record, but now he's vacating that title for a short-notice UFC debut. He's stepping in for the injured Fares Ziam on just 5 days' notice and will face Caio Fernandez. The Brazilian comes in with a full camp, and furthermore, in his last fight, he defeated Guram Kudatiladze, making it his 2nd consecutive UFC win. Caio Fernandez wins by knockout in the first round after a series of low kicks. He absolutely decimated his opponent's leg to the point where he simply couldn't stand up. He might have sustained a serious injury. Herb Dean and Fernandez gave him the opportunity, saying get up, but the man couldn't do it. Caio Fernandez wins by knockout, a low kick finish in the first round. Marcin Tybura versus Ante Delija. Marcin Tybura, at 40 years old, remains in excellent form. In the last 5 years, he's only lost to Volkov, Aspinall, and Spivak. Tonight, he welcomed Ante Delija to the promotion, the 2022 PFL season champion. In his last 7 fights, the Croatian has only lost once to Valentin Moldavi. The fight with Tybura is a rematch. They previously fought for the M1 belt. Back then, Delija suffered an injury in the first round, and Tybura defended his title exactly 10 years ago to the day. In the very first 5 minutes, Delija started pressing with strikes, while Tybura retreated and absorbed damage. A finish was only a matter of time. And here's your answer: 2 minutes. That's all it took for the Croatian to barrage Tybura with strikes and earn a TKO victory. Umar Sy versus Brenson Ribeiro. Umar Sy, the French light heavyweight, entered the UFC undefeated and got off to a good start. 2 wins to kick things off, and he was on the cusp of breaking into the top 15, but he lost his last fight to Alonzo Menefield. Brenson Ribeiro, his opponent, currently holds a losing record in the promotion. Just 3 months ago, he was knocked out by Azamat Murzakanov, but the Brazilian didn't take a long break and wants to get back on the winning track. In the first minute, Umar Sy rattled the Brazilian with a jab, then immediately took him down and held him there for the entire 5 minutes. He tried to finish, but it was really difficult to do anything besides maintain control. However, in the final minute, he found a favorable position from which he pounded out Ribeiro until the referee stopped the fight. TKO victory for Umar Sy at the end of the first round. This has been an absolutely spectacular card for finishes tonight, and not a single decision yet. William Gomes versus Robert Rucala. William Gomes, until recently, was undefeated in the UFC. He hadn't lost in over 8 years, but this past March he suffered a defeat to Haider Amil, which delayed his entry into the top 15. Tonight he faced newcomer Robert Rucala. The Pole was a 2-time interim champion in the KCW promotion, with more than half of his 11 career wins coming by way of finish. Now he's stepping up and making his UFC debut. Gomes and Rucala became the first fighters tonight to go the distance. Rucala started the fight at a good pace. It even looked like we might have an upset tonight, but no, Gomes gained momentum with each passing minute, and Rucala started to lose confidence. Gomes managed to outstrike him and at times control him. The result, a unanimous decision victory for William Gomes with scores of 29-28, 29-28, and 30-27. Alex Solo versus Rhys McKee. Alex Solo, the French Arras FC champion with 4 successful title defenses. This kid is only 27 years old, he's undefeated, and he's hungry to showcase his skills on the biggest stage in the world. Rhys McKee was released from the UFC in 2020 with an 0-2 record. Returning to England, he became the Cage Warriors champion. He came back to the UFC, but again started with 2 losses. But in his last fight, he finally got a win, which saved him from another release. The fight was pretty competitive. At times, McKee looked better. He landed a good spinning elbow once, but Solo inflicted more damage. It was a back-and-forth battle, but in the 3rd round, Solo dropped McKee and rushed in for the finish, and a quick stoppage followed. In my opinion, the referee was a little too quick, but it is what it is. Solo likely would have finished him anyway. TKO victory in the 3rd round for Solo. Bawati
Oki Lermosha versus Mason Jones. Oki came to the UFC through the Contender Series 2 years ago, but of course lost his O, like most fighters who come to this league, but he already closed that loss with a win this past May. Mason Jones was released from the UFC in 2021 with a 1-2 record. He then returned to Cage Warriors, where he was previously champion, racked up 4 wins in a row there, and this year he was brought back to the UFC for a fight against Jeremy Stephens, which Jones won. First round, Oki quickly scores a knockdown, tries to finish and was close. However, Jones survived that moment, got back up, and then dropped Oki with his own strikes. On the ground, he tried to secure a Kimura, so in the first round, Oki was close to both victory and defeat. Second round, Jones, riding the wave of success, quickly took Oki down and just as quickly moved into mount, from where he patiently but accurately rained down elbows. And it worked. The referee stopped the fight. Jones wins by TKO in the second round. Modestas Bukauskas versus Paul Craig. Modestas Bukauskas, since returning to the UFC, has won 5 of his last 6 fights, including a recent victory over Ion Cutelaba. Tonight he faced Paul Craig. The Scot returned to light heavyweight after an unsuccessful run at middleweight, where Craig had 3 consecutive losses. In June, he fought Rodolfo Bellato, and that fight was called off due to an illegal upkick. So, in total, Craig hadn't won in over 2 years. Modestas strategically took the first round, outstriking him, using the clinch, but the ending was unusual. He ended up on top of his opponent, landing heavy shots, and then the bell rang. Bukauskas didn't have time to finish him, however Paul Craig was lying there and couldn't get up, and the referee stopped the fight. A rare occurrence when a fight is stopped after the bell. Modestas Bukauskas wins by TKO after the first round, and Paul Craig announced his retirement from the sport after this bout. Co-main event, Benoit Saint-Denis versus Mauricio Ruffi, the co-main event of the evening. Benoit Saint-Denis lost that aura of a monster and a killer when he suffered back-to-back pretty dominant losses to Poirier and Machado. Many wrote the Frenchman off. Ruffi returned with a win over a debutant, but now he faces a much tougher challenge. Mauricio Ruffi is coming off a brutal victory over Bobby Green, whom he utterly knocked out with a spinning back kick. The combat botanist, assuming Voivod Botanic refers to Ruffi's team or nickname, is undefeated in the UFC. Let's see if he can extend his win streak, but he'll have to fight in Saint-Denis' home territory. First round, Saint-Denis quickly gets the takedown and ends up in mount. From there, he transitioned to back control, but Ruffi managed to get back up, but not for long. Saint-Denis took him down again and controlled him against the cage. The first round goes to the Frenchman thanks to his grappling. In the second round, Ruffi lands single strikes. Benoit tried to wrestle, but it wasn't working up to a certain point. However, he painstakingly secured a takedown, and from there, he quickly locked in a submission. Ruffi taps out, and Saint-Denis picks up a spectacular and dominant submission victory in the second round. Main event, Nassourdine Imavov versus Caio Borralho. The main event of the evening, Nassourdine Imavov earlier this year knocked out Israel Adesanya and became the number 2 contender in the middleweight division, but even that wasn't enough to get him a title shot. Tonight, he had a contenders fight against Caio Borralho. The leader of the combat botanists, assuming again it refers to Borralho's team, holds the longest winning streak in the division, and with a win tonight, he would also become the top contender for a title fight against Khamzat Chimaev. Who earned their ticket to a title shot? Let's find out. In the first round, the fighters were cautious. After all, there were 5 rounds ahead. They worked with single strikes. Imavov was pressing, and Borralho tried to grapple, but nothing landed. A calm but tense round. The second 5 minutes were more energetic. Imavov was outstriking Caio, landing a beautiful uppercut to the body, incredibly accurate and powerful. Later, he added a crisp straight right hand. In the second 5 minutes, Imavov took the initiative. Third round, right at the start, Imavov severely rattled Caio. It looked like the fight might end right then, but Borralho survived that moment, later landed a low blow to Imavov's groin and got a breather. After that, he fully recovered and put up a good fight, but he definitely lost the round because of the start. In the fourth round, Borralho started to become stagnant, and Imavov capitalized on it, landing excellent shots. Maybe there weren't many clean shots, but plenty through the guard. Borralho was too passive in the fourth round and gave it away. The fifth and final round was the most exciting. There were plenty of exchanges, and initially the Brazilian was winning them, landing clean and accurate shots. But with each passing minute, Imavov took the initiative. He had plenty of gas left in the tank, and by the end of the round, the entire 5 minutes had evened out. But by the end of the entire fight, Nassourdine Imavov earns a deserved unanimous decision victory, 50-45, 49-46, and 49-46. Drop a like. Let us know in the comments who won tonight, who definitely earned a bonus tonight. See you next time, friends. Peace out.